Hi, I'm Heather from Heather Handmade, and today I'm going to teach you how to make an easy DIY flamingo costume. Please like this video and follow my channel for lots of sewing and costumes. So this flamingo costume has a little hat that you tie with a bow. It has the eyes and the beak, and then there's a cape with all of the pink feathers, and this also can be tied on with a bow at the front. The great thing about this costume is the hat and the cape can be worn over pink or black or gray clothes, whatever you want to wear underneath. It makes it a really easy costume to make and to wear. This is just a bunch of felt and scraps of pink fabric. This is also felt and scraps of pink fabric. So let's get started. This project, you're going to need 1 to 2 yards of pink felt. This is a light pink. You're also going to need some scrap pieces of felt for the face and the eyes. Then you are going to need some pink bias binding, and if you want, you can use some pink scrap fabric to make extra feathers. We are going to make most of the feathers out of this pink felt, but I wanted to add 2 other colors to make it more fun and interesting. So the first thing you're going to need to do is cut out the cape for the flamingo. So this is a big piece of felt, and I don't want a full circle, I want to do a half circle, so I'm going to use this over here as my straight line, and then I'm going to have the circle, the half circle, come out like this. So what I'm going to do is fold this in half so that the fold is here. And I'm going to make this be where I mark the radius and mark out from here, and that's how I'm going to be able to cut a big half circle. So I have doubled up 2 layers of felt down here, and then I'm placing this half circle that I already cut out on top, and I'm going to cut out the shape, and these extra layers, this is what I'm going to cut the feather circles out of. Now I'm going to draw out, let's see, I'm going to fold this in half so that we can have it look the right way so that it will match on both sides. And then I'm going to draw out what I want the feather to look like. So I'm going to make strips of feathers, and I'm going to do this to this one and the other one, and then I'm going to layer them so that it looks like it's a bunch of layers of feathers. So I have 3 trims here for the feathers, so I'm going to cut this. I'm going to do the same to the other extra half circle by drawing feathers on it, but I'm going to start at the top, and that way I can stagger the two layers that I cut. So now I have 6 layers and they're all slightly different sizes so that I can layer them on top of the half circle, one on top of the other, and it will look like a bunch of layers of feathers. Now I have a bunch of just some random pieces of knit fabric, and I'm going to go through and just cut a bunch of kind of triangle feather shapes. I'm going to cut lots of layers at once because they don't have to be perfect. I just want to cut a lot at the same time. If you have a cutting machine, you can use that to make your feathers, but just cut a bunch of feathers from a bunch of some different pink colors so that it will be interesting and fun, the costume. I've laid out all of these different layers, and I'm going to take my feathers and then just place them throughout different parts of the layers. This part you can actually hot glue if you want. You could hot glue all of these feathers. I just like the look of them being sewn. So I'm planning on just sewing along the top of the feather so that I can just sew just like this, and the feathers can be kind of a piece that's separate. Now I'm going to go along each one and just sew right along the top to attach these feathers to the top of each layer. Now I'm going to take my layers, and starting at the bottom, I'm going to pin them to the base, the half circle base. So this is the bottom layer, and I'm going to pin this in place so that I can sew it on. So all of these layers are pinned on, and I can just go and sew each layer as I remove the pins. Just make sure that you lift the layer on top of it so you're not sewing on any feathers. Now the cape is done. There's just two things. So I'm going to add some loops of elastic to the ends so that my daughter it can slip over her hands so that she can control the wings. And I'm using this glitter elastic just because I only have a small amount left and I'm trying to use it up. So if you come over to the edge like this, and then you can just, I'm just going to zigzag that edge in place. Then I'm going to take some bias binding and I'm going to finish the neck edge. So I fold it in half and I take this center and put it at the center of the cape. And this will make the neckline a lot softer. In case your child doesn't like the feeling of the felt, this will be a lot more comfortable. Then I'm going to sew along this bias binding all the way around like that. Now I'm going to cut out a little hood that will be a hat for the flamingo head. That's where we're going to put the eyes and the beak. So I'm just cutting and marking a simple hat that has one seam. I kind of laid down my daughter's coat and kind of, I don't like that. No. I laid down my daughter's coat and kind of just did a really rough shape. Since this isn't for warmth or anything like that, it's really just for looks. I'm not too worried about the shape of it. And I don't want to have a point back here. I'm going to curve this into kind of a head shape. So there's two pieces here. This is going to be the center seam in the back that will go over the top of her head. And then this will be where we add the beak and the eyes. This will be down by her neck and this will be finished with bias binding. Now, because I think my daughter's going to complain about the itchiness of this, the felt, I'm going to cut out just some soft pink knit fabric to go inside, just as a lining inside the hat. Now with my two hat pieces, I am going to pin the back, the part that goes on the back of the head. I'm going to pin that together, both the felt and the knit, so that I can sew that seam. Now I'm going to sew each of these seams with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. these two hats have been, the back seam has been sewn. So we're going to turn this one right side out and slip it inside this one. This is right sides together, and we are going to sew just this front seam so that when we turn it right side out, that seam is finished. So this seam has been sewn. We turn this right side out. And put the lining inside like this. So to finish this bottom edge, we are going to add some bias binding. So first I'm going to pin this in place. So I have a long piece of bias binding, and I find the middle, and I'm going to put this, the middle, right here on the center back of the hood, and pin or clip this in place. Now I'm going to sew this bias binding closed and enclose the hood right here. Now for the beak and eyes, I'm going to cut 2 glitter pink circles. I just think it will be a nice contrast to the pink of the hat, and then the charcoal felt. This will kind of be the background. Here's the eyes that will be sewn onto the hat, and then we're going to do the beak. And the beak is going to be white and charcoal. So here is a circle, or here is a rectangle of white. This is going to be the one side of the beak, and then I'm going to cut a charcoal piece the same size. So we're going to have these two pieces together to make the beak like this. This side will end in a point, but first we need to sew this seam together and sew these eyes onto this glitter fabric. So this is sewn. Now we are going to sew this seam matching up that change of color. So this is going to be straight, and then when you get to this side you're going to go down and end at this point down here. So now we're going to turn this beak right side out and then stuff it with stuffing. Now I'm going to pin the eyes onto the hood, and the beak will have to be hand sewn on. You want to make sure that your eyes match up, that they look like they're, you know, symmetrical. So I'm going to sew these eyes on, and then this beak is going to be hand stitched right here at the edge. And that's how you make an easy DIY flamingo costume with a hat and a cape that can be worn over your clothes. I love how the feathers turned out, how when you shake it they move a little bit, but it has a lot of texture and color from all of the layers. And the hat is so cute with the eyes and the beak. It's just a cute little flamingo head. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you have a wonderful day.